They call it election. Nothing. Yes, sir. Cool McCain. Yep. Yep. Well, man, I think the important or interesting thing to kick off with would be the re-signing of Boston Red Sox new and former manager Joey Cora. For those of you not as into baseball, essentially Cora was one of the coaches that was on the staff in Houston that had the whole cheating scandal back in 17. So for his role, he was basically suspended from baseball for a season. And he was fired by the same team that rehired him. Uh, I believe it was today or yesterday. What I found interesting about it when watching it was, so you fired the guy because of the implications. You brought in a guy. The guy you brought in didn't have a lot of experience. Didn't seem like a guy that was going to be the coach long term. He had a bad season. Perfect excuse. You get rid of him, and lo and behold, you get the same manager back that won you the World Series in 2018. So come out smelling like roses. PR is covered. Got rid of the guy. He just so happened to be available. I mean, just so happened when you need another coach because your other coach did not perform up to expectations, and he's right back where he was. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
man. There's an old saying. It doesn't matter if it's baseball, if it's basketball, football. It doesn't matter. Winning solves everything. And you obviously made the move to get rid of him because of the PR stench. It was on the situation from the Astros. But after going through a not so great season, you realized your mistake and you went back, I'm sure, with a nice large bonus check and your pride in the palm of your hands because you go from winning a World Series to sucking. You're going to have to swallow your pride a little bit and do the right thing.
Well, I tell you, I feel like, man, honestly, it wasn't even that. My opinion, of course, but I feel like, all right, Joey, you know what's going on. We got to fire you, right? We got to get rid of you. But we're going to bring in someone who may or may not have a decent season. And if they don't, then we're going to be able to justify removing them because even though you didn't win the World Series in 2019, you still were a competitive team. So if because of what happened to you, we bring someone else in and the team looks worse than it did when you were, managing it, then we'll be able to rehire you and everyone will save their PR hits because you humbly accepted, and yeah, I'm blinking on purpose here, you humbly accepted your year suspension without contesting it. And then lo and behold, magically the same job you had seems to open back up. I just don't buy that the firing was genuine at all. I think it was disingenuous. I think it was another example of I'm just going to do what I think people want me to do in the specific situation. But at the end, I'm going with what I had because that's what I like. And I don't really care about the long term backlash. I just want to satiate people immediately.
Well, man, I know you're one of these people that you like to believe that everyone is some kind of super villain who has these long term plots that they come up with, man. But I'm not going to give the Red Sox that much credit. I don't think that was it. I think they fired him because they didn't want to have to deal with the backlash. They figured enough time had blown over now, and they were bad enough that they basically went back. I don't think there was a long term play here. I don't think that they wanted to fire him in the first place. They were just too cowardly to deal with the backlash of keeping him. So they did the easy thing. They let him go, and now they went back to him.
Here's the thing. You are definitely one of those people who never believes anyone has a long term plan in most of these situations.
I wouldn't say
Fact of the
never.
matter is, like I said, you got rid of the guy because he was suspended for a year and he couldn't manage in the major leagues. So if he can't be a manager, you have to let him go, right? You're not going to pay two managers, so you have to let him go. But as soon as you finish your season, the first person that you contact, the main person that was on everyone's radar for your organization, was the guy that you only let go because of a PR nightmare that would have ensued had you not fired him, because he couldn't have coached this year anyway, this past season. So, long-term play, if you want to call it that, not really a long-term play. It's just simply, we got to get rid of you for a year. We're going to bring in somebody we know is going to suck. When he sucks, we'll get rid of him. You have your job back. It doesn't take any diabolical long-term planning. It's common sense. It's what I would have done if I was in that situation. So, common sense. It's not necessarily a thing where anyone had to do a bunch of planning. We're bringing somebody that sucks. We know they won't do well. They'll be out. You'll be back in. Run it. No PR problems. That's where we're at.
Two things I'll say to that. Number one, as you know, I've only really started watching baseball, so I was not aware of the fact that part of his punishment was that he wasn't allowed to coach for a year. So that would have been prudent information to provide me, sir. And second of all, of course you would think that made you're a diabolical supervillain.
Well, actually, I did say that he was suspended for the year, and that's why they had fired him. But that's neither here nor there. And the whole diabolical villain thing, I resemble that remark.
All right, so that's probably our last baseball conversation for the year versus 2020.
Maybe not.
Depend on what else happens, but we'll see.
You never know.
You do never know. What will not be happening for the remainder of 2020 is that there will not be a lack of basketball talk, however, because here in basically a month and a half, we will have free agency, the draft, and the start of the new season. So that is a lot going on in what, basically 7 weeks?
Pretty much, yeah.
So we got the now I didn't look. Are they doing the draft first, or are they doing free agency first? Because I know we talked about that last week. About how they should do it.
Let me see if I can check into that.
Yeah, because I'm just kind of curious to.
I was curious about that actually.
Because to me, I don't understand how you could not give free agents as much opportunity to come in and get acclimated to the team as possible.
Yeah, it's so the draft proposed date is November 18th. The proposed free agency is November 20th to the 22nd. So the draft would be a few days before free agency. I think in this situation, that's not a bad idea, because you definitely do want to have like those rookie guys coming in the fold and kind of know at least what you're drafting, what you're projected to be before free agency. But you got to get them both done quick. So if they have the draft, the free agency starts on the 22nd. From the day the 20th it starts, and they have like a 3-day window, so 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And I guess they can probably sign people after that. They'd probably like to blitz to try to get everybody signed. And then the proposed start date for training camp is December 1st. So you push it in a small window, but you got to do what you got to do. You got to have some type of time for them to at least practice together.
Yeah, I tell you, man, the thing that's really interesting to me in terms of the draft this year, or not the draft, but the free agency this year, is in the past, if you had a big name on the market, you everybody has to wait on that person. So sometimes you might have a flurry of deals that get signed, but for the most part, people are kind of waiting on that one big signing to kind of see where the pieces fall in. I don't think you're going to have that so much this year because with the shrunken time frame, people are going to want to have those guys ready on the team, past any COVID protocol tests or anything they got to pass. They wouldn't have had them ready to go when camp opens on December 1st. Because you're only going
Yeah.
to get 3 weeks of camp, basically, before the first game.
Yeah.
So you're not going to see guys taking 2 or 3 weeks to let somebody decide where they want to go.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to be like, look, wherever I'm trying to go, let's get there, let's make it happen. And I think that would be better served for the other teams too, because like you said, if you know you're not going to get this guy, you can say, all right, I didn't get him on day 1, day 2. I've been talking to other people. Let me go ahead and drop some other people, some other slots in. But I think also it hurts your ability if you are like a top tier free agent and you actually want to go out and explore the market. It kind of hurts your ability to do that to an extent. But at the same time, I mean, let's be honest, they're all talking behind backdoor channels now anyway. They've been talking since the season was over. So a lot of guys probably have an idea where they're going.
Man, they was down there recruiting the bubble.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about players who were down there recruiting for sure. There's probably some GMs and coaches, but I mean, like you really having conversations because, like, if you're in LA, right, for instance, if you play for the Lakers and you feel like, man, if I come back here, I got a good chance to win again, then maybe you want to stay there. But if you didn't win and you're the Clippers, for instance, maybe some of those free agents are like, yeah, we need to make it to the finals. I'm out. So I think some of it you had to kind of wait just because you wanted to make sure that you were in the best situation. But for the most part, let's be honest, they was talking from the beginning. Like they got in the bubble, like, hey, bro, we in the cafeteria together, like, hey, bro, come up in this year.
Yeah.
But if me, you, and him, we can get together, bro. We make something happen. So I think you had some of that, but their money, have a part to doing that, and then also other moves that people make, people moving. Like there's been a lot of talk about. I know Rondo um, possibly going to the Clippers. Some different guys moving around. So we'll see how all that plays out. But we will only have to talk about it 1 week.
Yep. Is this going to happen fast?
Real quick.
So my question, I guess, for you, man, is: do you foresee any big moves happening, any big trades or free agent signings, like major stuff going down? Because I don't think this free agent class is real big. Like, I mean, you got some solid guys that are going to be out there, but you don't have any big names this year.
I really don't. And then there's a lot of uncertainty because, with the coronavirus and the reduced schedule for last year, this season just passed in a new season. I think that people are more likely to take small deals, maybe 1-2 years, just to kind of feel how things are going to be. And then I think trade wise, it's hard for teams to take on a lot of salary when you're in a situation like this where a lot of things are up in the air. I know that I've seen some reports that the Pelicans are shopping Drew Holiday, but depending on what they're expecting to get back, no one may even bite on that. And not saying that he's not a player that can help a lot of teams, heck, he can help the Lakers, but what are you wanting back in return for him? You know what I'm saying? Because no one's going to give up a lot for Drew Holiday. He's just not. He's a solid point guard. He's, I think, an all-star, but he's not a guy where you're like, oh, I'm going to give up a lot of pieces for a guy that's probably more to the end of his career at the beginning at this point.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to be interested to see is I've seen a couple of articles, and this has become a yearly thing, really, where they talk about Kyle Kuzma possibly getting traded. And I think this is the year that kind of makes sense because if they are going to trade him, I don't know if you're going to sign him to a big extension and pay him what he's going to get paid after this year. So this might be the year that makes sense to do it. He still has pretty good value right now. One potential trade I actually saw was with the Wizards, possibly for the number 9 pick as well as a player. I don't necessarily think LA is going to look to draft anybody at 9. I think they would probably try to use that pick as leverage in another trade. but that might not be a bad look for them. I know they were kind of hoping that he could step up and be that third guy, but has he shown enough they're going to want to sign him long term? That's debatable.
But you also have to ask yourself, because I see a lot of these articles about, Gary Harris, Denver. But you have to ask yourself, what is someone willing to give you for that particular player? If you're another team, am I really going to give you the number 9 overall pick and a player for Kyle Kuzma? Do I feel like Kyle Kuzma is worth the 9th overall pick? They may, but most teams wouldn't, just based on his inconsistency. You could argue that before LeBron got there, when he was with the original group of kids that he came in with, he was one of the focal points and he had better stats, but they were losing. So then you get LeBron in, Anthony Davis comes, he becomes more of a third scorer, a guy that doesn't have to do it every night, but needs to be ready when they need him. And you saw a lot of struggle in that role. So is someone going to give you a lot for that? And then, like you said, turn around, whatever you give up, you're going to either have to sign him to a deal that's probably out of what he's played, what he's played, because obviously he's going to want the money, right? He hasn't played enough quality basketball to deserve it. He's played better when he had value, when he had the green line, he had value, he had better stats. So he's a guy that you're kind of like, what could you really get for him? That's the thing. Gary Harris from the Nuggets is another guy. Excellent defensive piece. Challenged on the scoring end, not that great of a three-point shooter, but can make some. Has been injured the last couple of years, has kind of faded in, and it kind of looks more like the team is looking to make Michael Porter Jr. that guy to play along with Jamal Murray and Jokic versus him. And then with Jeremy Grant coming in and playing well as well, cheaper option than Grant's there. So he's a guy that you probably want to move, but you have to ask yourself, what do you really expect to get in return? So that's where I think a lot of the trades that people want to have or that they come out, they don't happen, because I'm not giving you a lot for a guy who hasn't shown me that he's worth what you want for him. You might see him as this, but does anybody else? And a lot of times that answer is no. That's why these trades don't happen.
I mean, I don't disagree, man, and that's why I wanted to kind of bring it up, because Kyle Kuzma is obviously not the only guy we hear these stories about, but I think he's a great
Yeah.
example of a guy that you're seeing a lot. You see this every year, and people kind of want to put this value on what they could become. And you might be able to find somebody out there that's willing to give you a pick for what somebody might become. But it's a tough ask. And then, especially, specifically with Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah.
As I'm sitting there reading the article, I'm thinking to myself, why would they give up the number 9 pick? And, I mean, the player they were talking about giving it up was just basically a salary jump. But it's like, okay, so you're going to give up the number 9 pick, and then you're going to have to sign him to a deal, and you don't even know how he's going to play with Bill and Walt. So, that's, to me, I thought it was kind of silly, but that's why I wanted to bring it up, because it's something that I know people see all the time, and a lot of people they get excited about all these trade possibilities, but they don't really stop to think about what's really going on and what somebody's value really is.
They do. They go on ESPN, and they have that trade thing where you can plug in a trade between two teams. They say, you plug this, and this in with this, and this, and this. Yeah. But that's not how it works in the real world. Not at all.
I think I'm still going to go with my dartboard theory. I think you just, put names on the board and throw darts at it.
Well, I mean, that's not a bad theory, but I do believe, because I see a lot of people say, you get on Facebook, you see people say, here's the Facebook generator for the trade generator on ESPN. Here's what you could get, and then you could get this and see. And you're like, bro, no one's going to make that trade. No one's ever going to make that trade.
That's worse than the Madden trades.
Yes. The same theory behind that. It's the same thing as the same theory behind your fantasy football trades, right? You get a trade from a dude, you're like, bro, why would I make that trade with you?
Look, no
any
names.
benefit
Look,
that trade?
No names. Look, no names. Look, we both know what you're talking about.
Well, there's multiple people I'm talking about.
Yeah, but
some don't even play with us anymore.
but just when it came to top of our minds.
Let's just say there is someone who has historically sent us both trades to make you be like, why would you even send this?
And if anybody is watching right now who or listening who has been in a fantasy football league with us and this person, you probably know who it is too. Because they probably sent you some trades that you were like, come on, son.
It's the same principle though, right? I mean, if you get what I'm saying, it's the same principle. You're
Yeah.
saying to somebody, I have this guy, we use Kyle Kuzma as an example, that he's had great flashes, but he's never been much on a winning team.
Yeah.
I want you to take him off my hands. And I want you to pay him after next year or let him walk. But I also want you to give me back great value. You know what I'm saying? Why? Like, why? So, like Yannick Ngakwe, the trade with him, he got traded again. And like a fifth round pick, they switched up the pickers, something like that. It wasn't anything big because you understand that either you're going to have to spend the money to keep him or he's going to walk because he's a free agent. So I'm not giving you what his value would be because of the specific situation. And that's what people got to think about when they're writing all of these articles on those things. It's just, come on, man. Like, make things make sense and not just something that you picked up somewhere. This is what a lot of this feels like. I saw this article and I decided I'm going to spread what this article says. And without naming any names or going into something that we're not talking about, I'll just say that once someone says something or writes something and a whole bunch of people then run and start spreading that, all of a sudden it's news. And I'm just going to leave that there.
Well, man, I will for the benefit of those who have not yet heard my theory. Well, it's not even a theory. It's my explanation of how ESPN creates news. So, for those of you who have never noticed this before, I'm about to break this down for you. So, what they do is they make up a story. Doesn't matter if the story has any truth to it whatsoever. All you have to do is find something that sounds plausible, aka good player, born in a different city than they play in, they want to go home. That's an easy story for them to make up every time. Somebody comes out and reports on it in the morning. That same person then gets quoted on ESPN.com and gets brought on to different ESPN shows throughout the day to talk about this story that they broke. By the end of the day, ESPN has essentially used a story that they made up, used one of their own reporters as the source of credibility, and added to their credibility by bringing them on to talk about it all day long on different shows. So that by the end of the day, you actually think it's a real story that's really happening. And no one ever gets called out on the fact that 99% of the garbage that they tell us never comes to fruition.
Doesn't
That's
matter,
how
man.
ESPN works.
Doesn't matter, man. But it is what it is. But that's just a lot of these, these trade rumors and all this stuff. That's where you get them from, and you just get to the point where it's like, man, we don't even need that because there's enough things going on where we just don't have to generate stories in any medium about anything that's going on. Innuendos, other things, but not bringing it up. But was also kind of checking into some things this week as far as college football because myself, I'm a college football fan. Got a couple of top 25 matchups. We have BYU and Boise State. That's number 9 BYU, number 21 Boise State. BYU is a pretty good team, but I can't sit here and be honest and say I'm very interested in the BYU Boise State game. What do you think?
My interest level in this game, and we'll get to this a little bit later and more in depth, but I'm intrigued by watching their quarterback, who is going to possibly be a mid-first round pick, somewhere between about 10 and 15, and I may have a team who might be interested in drafting a quarterback in that range. So I'll be interested in watching the game just from that standpoint.
Who could that be?
You'll have to find out later. Stay tuned.
You got Michigan and Indiana. It's another top 25 matchup. But Michigan coming off a loss is not really what they were. They only ranked 23rd. Indiana, they always seem to hang around, but they never seem to really be a threat. So,
well, Indiana did. They did have that big win. What, 2 weeks ago? So it'll be interesting to see. I've been telling people since about 2014, 15 that I think Harbaugh's a little overrated, and I'm actually a little bit shocked that he still has a job in Michigan, to be honest.
When the boosters love you, man, it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter.
Well, man, he keeps losing. They're not going to live him for much longer.
We'll see how much longer it takes, man. Whatever it takes. We've got a actually more interesting matchup. And number 5, Georgia, is going to be hosting number 8, Florida. I don't know if Florida has any suspensions from the brawl for it all that happened last week, which if you haven't seen, you might want to go watch. Just especially if you like a fight or a wrestling fan, it's pretty fun. But
yeah.
So they're playing Georgia. So it's a top 10 matchup. They may be good, and that may go a ways to kind of decide who's going to break away in that SEC. As far as that second team, because everybody always believes in Alabama being the first team. So who's going to be the other team that has a chance to challenge them? And this may go a long way to determining who that team might be.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. I know Florida is going to have some suspensions. I don't know how many, but that defense, it looked pretty good last week, but they've been really questionable up until last week. So I'm not completely sold on their defense right now. Their offense looks really good. Georgia, unfortunately for them, they're not getting very consistent play out of their quarterback. And I've been hearing from a lot of Georgia fans that are not very happy with the guy they decided to go with this week. Their defense is a little bit better. So yeah, I don't know if either one of these teams honestly deserves to be in the top 10. But it will be a competitive game, I think. So it will be interesting to see who wins it. And maybe by the end of the year, one of them convince you that they're in the top 10 for a reason other than the conference they play in. I said it.
Yeah, I knew you would. Now, what I find is an interesting matchup, and I'm only focusing on matchups that are between 2 top 25 teams, right? So there's other interesting matchups, but I'm only focusing on ones between 2 top 25 teams. Is number 1 Clemson, number 4 Notre Dame. There's several different things about this game that intrigue me. The main one being, there's no Trevor Lawrence. So we know Clemson's going with their freshman quarterback. He played fairly well last week, but Etienne won that game. Notre Dame has a better defense than what they played last week. And I think Notre Dame has a better quarterback and better skill position players. So if you're going to allow yourself to get in another hole like you did last week, you could possibly find a way out of it because Clemson has a lot of talent. But this is a team that is not going to bend or break if you start to come back, as what happened last week. So what do you think?
So I think that Notre Dame is going to win this
game. Okay.
And if Clemson does somehow win this, and I know this is one of the things you want to talk about tonight, so I'm not trying to step on your toes here, but I'm just going to say that if they win this game, I think ECN starts to maybe get more into the Heisman conversation than Trevor Lawrence, because he's going to have another monster game like he had last week for them to even have an opportunity to beat Notre Dame.
True. So, yeah, that does kind of touch on one of the questions. So this is a question for anybody watching as well as for you. So it's a twofold question. It's a two-pronged question, we'll say. So on one side, Clemson's number 1, Notre Dame's number 4. If Clemson wins this game without Trevor Lawrence, convincingly, so I'm not saying a last-second lucky play or whatever, but a convincing win without Trevor Lawrence against probably their most difficult game that they're going to have outside of the playoffs. Does that say that Trevor Lawrence, while a really great college player, is not as integral to this team as we have been led to believe by the media for the last few years? And should that officially eliminate him from Heisman contention? And on the other hand, if they lose this game convincingly, or at all, but convincingly for the sake of argument, does that elevate him in the Heisman conversation? Because even with a guy like Etienne, if I can't win this game without Trevor Lawrence, he's that important to the team that we need him to win. I honestly think even if Clemson gets blown out in this game, they're still going to be the representative from the ACC if they make it to the championship game, which they will because they'll have destroyed everybody else but Notre Dame, right? So I personally think them winning the game hurts Trevor Lawrence more than them losing the game hurts the team. Personal opinion, but I'd love to hear what you, as well as everyone who's watching, has to say about
it. Yeah, so here's my thing. So in terms of, does this diminish him at all? It depends on what level we're talking about. It doesn't diminish his talent. It doesn't diminish his importance to the team. But what it does do in terms of winning the Heisman, because the Heisman is supposed to go to the best player in the country, but it never does. It goes to the most valuable person on the best team or one of the best teams. So if they're able to win this game without him, then what that says is even if he is important to the team, even if he's valuable to the team, it shows that they can still win without him, which I think takes him out of the Heisman conversation. Now, it's not going to hurt his draft stock. It's not going to suddenly make him less valuable in the eyes of NFL draft scout, but it will take him out of the Heisman conversation, I think. Now, in terms of if Clemson loses, I think it depends. I mean, if Clemson loses by, say, a touchdown, does that, say, well, hey, Trevor Lawrence is obviously the difference maker. That's how they go from beating people soundly to just barely losing. That could strengthen his, commitment a little bit. If they go out there and get blown out, it might actually make him jump up in the Heisman rankings a little bit in terms of his importance. But at the same time, we've never really had a situation where a guy misses multiple games and is still competitive for the Heisman. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, it's usually due to injury, not because you had a virus.
Yeah, it's a different year overall. I did want to frame it in the sense of blowout win or blowout loss, and the reason I wanted to do that was because obviously a close win or a close loss doesn't really change the narrative. So that's why I wanted to frame the question in terms of big loss, big win, because essentially that shows either for this team to win, they can do it without him. Not that he doesn't make them better, but they can do it without him. Or without him, they can't compete against a team like Notre Dame, a top 5 team. So anybody who's watching or watches this week, leave your information in the comments, your thoughts in the comments if you want to comment on it. But I'm just interested about that because I do believe that not draft stock, but this does diminish his standing for the year if they can go out and get a blowout win without him. And it does, I think, push him upward in the conversation for Heisman if they have a blowout loss. Close win, close loss probably doesn't change anything. So that's why I wanted to frame it in terms of big win, big loss, because those are the ones that would make a difference. So anybody...
Now, I will say if they go out there and get a big win, they go out there and blow Notre Dame out, is definitely gonna hurt
Yeah,
his Heisman. Definitely.
absolutely. So anybody's watching, make sure you leave your comments. We'll get to them by the end of the show for sure. Um, so from there, I mean, we could talk about the Big Ten. We could talk about the Pac-12 coming back, but we'll get a better idea of that. Next week we'll let them get a few games in, and we can talk
Yeah.
about the top 25 for college, any moves, anything in there that may interest us. Don't necessarily have to go through the whole thing because who wants to really do that? But we'll talk about anything that significant or that we feel is significant in that top 25 for college. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be talking that. I'll be starting next week, maybe the week after. Now, also, we need to hop into, of course, NFL. But with the NFL, there's several different things we can discuss, but you know how we're going to do. We're going to talk about the games that are coming up next week. Also, a debate that I had the privilege to be part of one of my groups. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on. So the debate was top receivers. So after a few really good performances, there's this whole DK Metcalf bandwagon. And while I can't deny that this dude has a lot of talent, I'm not ready to put him as a top 3, top 5 receiver in the NFL at this time. Some people are. So my question for you is, who is your top 5 wide receivers right now?
So I have to actually sit here and try to think about that. Off the top of my head, I can easily, say D Hop and Julio. Those are the first 2 guys that immediately come to my mind. I'm kind of trying to go through and think who else is up there. Tyreek Hill is definitely a guy that you could make an argument for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think who else. I'm trying to go through each conference and try to think what receivers are in there. I might have said Diggs might have been in that conversation earlier in the year, but he's cooled off quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, really, when you stop and think about it, man, it's like there's not really a whole lot of top tier receivers right now. Because you've had a lot of injuries and stuff, so I might just not be thinking about some people right now. So
I'll give you
you put me on the
my
spot.
top 5 is. It's all good. I'll give you my top 5. It's not in order. This is just the 5 people. We're definitely going to go Julio Jones. We're definitely going to go DeAndre Hopkins. Even though he's been hurt, we're definitely going to go Michael Thomas. We're definitely going to go Devontae Adams.
I forget he was still in the league.
Yep. We're definitely going to go Devontae Adams. So those 4 are 4 of my top 5, irregardless. Now, when we
would think Devontae Adams would have top of my mind, right? After last night.
Hey. I'm also going to go ahead and throw Tyreek Hill in that conversation for the 5th spot, because I do feel like he's a guy that deserves to be, in that conversation for that spot. I also would throw Mike Evans in that spot because when not hurt, he's played well. I'm not holding injuries against guys because, hey, a lot of people are going to get hurt this year. I think Keenan Allen could be in that conversation. Justin Herbert is kind of just all over the place, but you got a rookie quarterback. It always hurts you as far as being the numbers being what they normally are. But I think those are guys that you could argue for that last spot. But definitely Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Definitely Julio Jones. Yeah. Definitely Michael Thomas. And 100% DeAndre Hopkins. So those are the 4, and then we talk about that 5th spot. But that's
we're in agreement on the 4. And then 5, like you said, is it gets a little questionable. I mean, here's the thing, man. So DJ Metcalf, the dude is a freak,
Oh yeah,
you know,
no doubt about
and he does incredible things athletically.
it.
He's actually a pretty solid route runner, and his game is developing.
Yeah,
And he is a guy that if he can stay healthy, that he very well will be a top 5 wide receiver in a couple of years. He might even be a guy that we're talking about is the best receiver in football in a couple of years. He has the
maybe.
physical tools to do it. He has a great quarterback throwing him the football, which, by the way, helps a lot.
Tremendously.
So, yeah. So, could he be there in a couple of years? Absolutely. But right now, I think the best you could put him at is 5. And I feel like there's several other guys that you can easily make the argument are better than him. But if you say he's top 10, I don't have a problem with that. You might be able to give me a solid case for why you put him at 5. If you put him any higher than 5, I'm laughing at you.
Hmm. And there's some other guys to watch out for too. So, but
Yeah.
I have to agree, man. He's definitely on the come up, but you have to show for more than a portion of the season to really be there. And last year he was good, but the narrative last year and still to an extent this year drops, right?
Yeah.
So something he can clean up, something he can fix. But from what I've seen, he's been doing better at that this year. But you got to, you got to be more consistent because all the guys I'm naming are not guys that just had one good year and then all of a sudden they're great. These are all guys who have produced over time, and that's what it takes to be one of the best in any sport.
Yeah, for sure. But like I said, man, Russell Wilson, I think plays a big part. That can't really be understated. Russell Wilson is one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. You might even be able to just say he is the best deep ball thrower in the NFL. So it's not really something that I'm going to necessarily hold against DK Metcalf, but I am going to say that for all the people who are overhyping him right now, they do need to account for the fact of who he has thrown him the ball.
Yeah. So you have a couple of comments. One was to your credit. That does make sense, even if we can't prove it. I'd have to look at the timestamp to see exactly what he was referring to.
I believe that was the ESPN theory, and I feel like it's proven.
Yeah, that's fair. And then it's pretty factual for me. It works for me. Odell Beckham Jr. would have been on his list if he didn't get injured. I don't hold injury against the list. I just feel like Odell hasn't really clicked in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And he's gotten the targets, but he hasn't had the production. So that's why I would put him lower on my list, not outside. He'd probably be my top 10. But I have to take that into account.
But let me ask you, though, where would you put Odell if he had Russell Wilson as his quarterback instead of Baker Mayfield?
Well, if he had Carson Wentz as his quarterback instead of Baker Mayfield, I'd put him higher probably. So, you have to put part of it. Sure, seriously, though, you have to put part of it on Baker. But at the same time, you are getting the throws at you, right? So, like the play he got hurt on, for example, and this is a defensive back. The play he got hurt on was an underthrown ball. No way about it. No ifs, ands, or buts. But at the same time, I have seen plays in those games where he's had an opportunity to make a play and didn't. So it could be that there's something that's not working between those two. Probably should have thought about that before you traded for him. Just saying. But you have to put some of it on Mayfield, but you're the receiver. There are catchable balls. It's not like he's out there throwing like Jalen Hurts where he gets a chance to throw in the game and just selling the ball like way overdue, they'll have a chance. So you have to make some plays too. You are the wide receiver. He's getting he was getting a lot of looks when he was playing, I think more than he probably should have gotten, but he was. Now, we also had a comment from Malachi that Antonio Brown is back in the game too. So Antonio's going to have to do a lot to get back on my list. Number one, I don't believe he's going to stick if he can't keep his mind under control. Talent-wise, definitely a top 5 dude if we're just talking talent. But you haven't played for a while. You've shown that your mind is not necessarily focused on football and doing what you need to do for the past few years. So you can get back and be who you were. You can arguably slide back in this list. But right now, you're back up. You're on your last leg. And you got to work your way into getting catches. Luckily, you're with your boy Tom. And not for nothing, he did have a TB12 hat on in his introductory press conference. So clearly, once he gets on that field, there'll be some targets going his way. But I think it's going to take a little bit more for him to get, back up to where he was at. Your thoughts on that subject, sir?
I agree. I mean, I don't think Antonio Brown has been a top 5 wide receiver in a minute. And, he may still have top 5 talent. We'll find out here soon.
Right.
But right now, the only top 5 I have him in is he's in my top 5 most likely people to not make it through this season.
Not giving Antonio Brown a lot of love over there, I see, sir. But hey, that's part of.
Hey, I respect this game, man, but he's messing up a lot.
Well, man, we go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs without the Cocoa Puffs. Can't blame people for questioning how you're gonna play once you get another opportunity. That's kind of where we're at. So,
I do hope he actually does get his stuff together, though, man. You hate to see somebody waste their talent and waste the opportunity. So I hope he do get right.
That man got a lot of talent. For real, he got a lot of talent. So hopefully he can use it. But he got a lot of talent. So we'll hop into our games for this week. Obviously, the Thursday night game's already been played. We both were incorrect on that one, so it happens.
In our defense, neither one of us knew that the 49ers were going to be without their entire offense. So we will both pick differently had we known that.
It's all good. So the first game.
By the way, I do real quick before you get there, I do want to address this situation because I don't know if you heard about this or not, but the reason why we were without so much of our offense was Kendrick Bourne tested positive for COVID, and through contact tracing, they made us put our left tackle and 2 other wide receivers on the COVID list. Well, turns out it was a false positive. And despite the fact that it was a false positive, him and the other players all have to still test negative multiple times before they can actually go back onto the field. Because the NFL decided they didn't want to postpone the game until Monday, and they insisted on still playing the game Thursday night, that meant we were out there without most of those guys. So, that's just another issue that COVID is causing this year, because this is not the first time there's been a false positive. Matthew Stafford had a false positive earlier this year and ended up missing a game because of it. So that's something that if we have to continue to deal with this COVID stuff going forward, I definitely hope the NFL does something to change that, because if it were not for the fact that I'm actually at this point just rooting for a high draft pick, I'd be really mad right now.
Hey, we've got some people in Philadelphia that tested positive as well. Luckily, we have a bye week, so that we did follow the right time for us. But we'll hop into these matchups for these last 10 minutes. And everybody's watching, feel free to give us your picks in the comments, and we'll hop on those. So we'll start off with Denver at Atlanta. If we were picking this game 2 weeks ago, heck, maybe even a week ago, I go with my tried and true rule, which is if you're playing Atlanta or one of the New York teams, I'm going to pick you. But under Raheem Morris, Atlanta's been playing a lot better, so I'm going to go with Atlanta.
I'm going to say that Georgia has blown another lead this week, and the Falcons are going to lose.
All right. So the next game we have Seattle at Buffalo. I don't pick against Seattle. It doesn't always work out, but Seattle's the better team. Their defense is not that good, but their offense is tremendous. Buffalo has a pretty decent offense, but as you said a few minutes ago, Diggs, their big free agent offseason pickup, or big trade, I should say, pickup, had some good games, had some cold games. So, want to go Seattle.
I'm actually going to go Buffalo on this one. I think their defense is probably a little bit more used to seeing a quarterback who runs and gets out of the pocket in practice every day. They'll be a little bit more prepared for it, and that Seattle defense is not as good as they looked last week. My offense was just that terrible.
Well, one thing I will point out about Buffalo, they when Josh Allen can't move around and do those things, he's not as effective because he doesn't have that I'm going to make a play happen playground mentality that Russell Wilson does. So even though they may be
he's not Russell Wilson.
Even though they may be used to the moving around, Seattle's also going to be used to that too, right? So they're going to be able to say, we can cover these gaps a little bit better because we go up against this every day in practice. Plus, you have that difference of making the plays when he runs and not just throwing. So I think that's going to be the difference for me is Russell Wilson. And that's why I'm picking Seattle. But, Buffalo does have a better defense. They don't really have much of a running game this year consistently. But, we'll agree to disagree on that pick. All right. So next we got Chicago at Tennessee. Nick Foles is starting for Chicago. I'm sorry for all of the fans of the Bears. You're not going to win this game, Tennessee.
Yeah. I was tempted to go the Bears on this one, but I'm going
to go Tennessee. All right, Malachi goes Seattle. So that's another vote for Seattle there for the Seattle game. Now we'll come to the Baltimore, Indianapolis. I'm going to go Baltimore, but I wouldn't be surprised if Indianapolis did pull this game out just because we're getting a slump from Lamar Jackson, and that's not good.
I would be very surprised if Indianapolis pulls this out. I'm going to go Baltimore.
Next, we have Carolina and Kansas City. In the comments, we did have one from Jedediah, who is a Panthers fan, that said he's going to definitely go Kansas City against his Panthers. I'm going to also agree with you, Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm also going to agree with that.
If Kansas City loses that game, that's the upset of the season. Detroit at Minnesota. I have two picks for this game, actually. And it may seem like hedging my bets, but this is the only way I can do it. If Matthew Stafford plays, I'm going Detroit. If he can't play because of this whole COVID contact tracing thing, I'm going to go Minnesota because they'll have their starting quarterback. Chase Daniel cannot do what Matt Stafford can do with this offense. So if Matt Stafford plays Detroit, if he doesn't, I'm going Minnesota.
Minnesota finally realized last week their offense is Dalvin Cook, not Kirk Cousins. They'll keep handing the ball, and they'll lead Minnesota to victory.
All right. Then we got the Giants at the football team. I've been pretty confident on if you play a New York team, I'm picking against them. I'm not going against their strategy this week. I'm picking the football team in this game.
I'm going Giants. They're moving up. I think they got a little confidence by having a close game against Tampa. I think they're going to pull it off. And then it is the football team afterwards.
All right. So Billy Venable, he had a couple of picks here that he just popped in on us. So he picked the Seahawks, he picked the Ravens, and then he's picking the Vikings, Stafford or not. And he's a Detroit Lions fan. Wow.
Yeah. So Malachi said that, he can't go with the Ravens because Lamar Jackson struggled against Pittsburgh. I told you he was going to struggle against Pittsburgh. I called it. He struggled against Pittsburgh last year. They played him very intelligently on defense. That's not going to happen this week.
It's not. All right. So then we got Houston at Jacksonville. Houston's a different team. Jacksonville is still the same old Jacksonville. Houston.
Yeah, they still got Deshaun Watson, right?
They do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Houston.
And Jacksonville still has the stash. They'll put up stats, but they won't win the game.
Yeah.
We got the Raiders at the Rams. LA versus LA. Well, Las Vegas versus LA. I'm going with Derek Carr. Vegas.
So Vegas might get off to a fast start, but Nevada seems to be a little slow these days. So I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm still gonna go Vegas.
All right, then we got Pittsburgh and Dallas. Dallas has joined the ranks of the two New York teams. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Pittsburgh too. I've actually talked to a couple of Cowboys fans this week, and none of them are Cowboys.
I have to take back what I said a few minutes ago. If Dallas wins this game, that's the upset of the century. Dallas is that bad right now. They're damn like the third quarterback.
What would be the bigger upset? The fact they beat the Steelers, or all the Cowboys fans upset over losing a spot in the draft board?
Right. Yeah, if you're Dallas, you're playing for draft picks for your draft position. You're done. You know, and while it's nice to see, I hated that the dude that was playing quarterback because I liked him. It just happened to him. So didn't like him in the Dallas uniform, but like him as a player. Then we have Miami at Arizona. I'm gonna go ahead and stomp that one up to Arizona.
You know, I'm going Miami. They're surprising some people.
Got a little comment from our resident Steelers fan here. Malachi, that the Steelers are 8-0. Okay, that is true. They're going to be 9-0, but then they'll have to play a real football game the week after that, so we'll see how that goes. The last early game on Sunday is New Orleans at Tampa Bay. This one's very tough for me, but I don't see Tampa losing 2 games to Drew Brees. But Michael Thomas is coming back. Thank you, fantasy. But I gotta go Tampa Bay because I feel like Brady's gonna make sure the team does whatever it takes to split. They can't lose both of these games in New Orleans.
Yeah, this one's a toss-up. It's gonna be a tough one. I could honestly see it going either way, but I'm going to agree with you that getting 2 wins against a division opponent is super difficult to do.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Tampa.
All right, and then our Monday night game, we have the New England Patriots against the New York Jets. Oh my gosh! I have to first say, when I first saw this game on the schedule, my first thought was, can Monday night games be flexed? And then I think my answer to that question was no. So I was like, we're all screwed. I'm sorry, Patriots fans. I'm sorry, Jets fans. This is the one time that I had to really contemplate. Do I want to pick the team that's playing against the Jets over the team that they're playing against? So Cam has been having a rough time since he came back from COVID. But if you're going to get back on track, there's no better time to do that than against the worst team in the NFL. I'm going to go New England by a field goal.
It's the Jets. New England should be able to win this game with Dallas quarterback.
They should be, man, but woo.
If the Jets were even remotely competitive, I would be picking them. But I can't. I just can't pick the Jets. I'm going to go New
England. Yeah, I got to go New England. It's the only thing that makes sense. But I mean, it's harder than you would think just because, bro, to be honest, that's a bad team. And they look in disarray. So when you look at disarray, I got to kind of look at you and be like, are you going to be able to get it done?
Now, I did see somebody the other day said that the Jets really should consider trading out of their 1 pick so they can get multiple draft picks because they have a lot of holes they need to fill, and you're not going to solve all your problems with one guy. And I agree with that in terms of they should probably trade the number one draft pick. What I don't agree with is that they can't solve most of their problems with one guy, more specifically by getting rid of one guy. And that would be Adam Gase.
Absolutely. All right, and then we're going to go to Thursday night, November 12th. Indianapolis Colts at Tennessee Titans. I'm going to go Tennessee Titans. So I'm getting Titans 2 wins in 7 days. That's actually less than 7 days.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans also. Titan fans, you better hope that I'm better picking for your team than my own.
Hey, man, it was some mitigating circumstances. Billy V also picked the Cardinals in that game. So, it seems like a lot of people are agreeing to some extent with our picks. But
I didn't pick the Cardinals. I picked Miami.
I was going to overlook that, but since you want to bring it back up, fine.
Hey, I picked it. I stand by it. Won't be the first time I've been right or wrong. So
I was thinking that maybe you just looked at the wrong week on the schedule and thought they were playing the Jets instead, and that's why you made the pick. So I was just going to leave it at that. But I mean, if you want to own up to that pick, hey, by all means, do your thing.
Hey man, I picked the Dolphins to lose to the Rams, and I was wrong about that. So now I'm going the opposite direction.
Well, we'll see, man. We will see.
Yeah. So is that all our games? That's it?
That's it. Unless you want to talk about some flag football or.
Well, the year was 2019. It's the last time we were all together. Oh man. Yeah, man. So yeah, man. You gotta do what you gotta do, man. You gotta laugh about it sometimes. So if you guys got any last minute comments you want to throw in before we sign off, any last questions you want to throw out there, feel free to drop those in the chat. Otherwise, we are going to go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. You guys on bye this week, man? Or you were on bye last week?
We're on bye this week.
You're on bye this week.
So we can't lose.
You can't win either.
And we can't tie.
Well, that's true.
We can't lose,
but y'all might try. Y'all might try. Y'all might actually get a tie this week. Somehow.
All right. So comment from Jedi. We want thoughts and prayers for Trevor Lawrence. What's up?
Yep.
I have no ill will toward Trevor Lawrence. Unless he goes to the Cowboys to be their quarterback, then I have to have ill will just because he's a Cowboy.
I feel like that's fair enough, man.
Yeah, other than that, man, I don't have any problem with the guy, man. Matter of fact, man, I think that Mahomes is going to be upset because as soon as this dude enters the league, your Head and Shoulders commercials are done, bro. Have y'all seen Trevor Lawrence there, bro? That dude is taking over
there.
That dude is taking over all the commercials, bro. It's a wrap.
Trevor Lawrence gonna be up on the camera. He gonna be on TV just golden locks.
You know what I'm saying? He reminds you of Sunshine from I always forget the name of that movie. The dude from California. Remember the Titans?
Yeah, remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do actually.
You do, bro.
You are. But yeah, man. On a serious note, man, I ain't got nothing against the dude. I wouldn't actually be mad if we go ahead and give up a whole bunch and trade up for him.
Well, man, I honestly would not blame him. And whoever watches this show could feel however they feel about this next comment. If he decided I'm just gonna go back to school because I don't want to go play for the Jets, I wouldn't be mad at him. I really wouldn't. Unless they get rid of Adam Gase.
Even if they get rid of Adam Gase, man, there's so little talent on that team. Like legitimately, if I'm the Jets, I'm not drafting even a what we all feel like is a can't miss guy in Trevor Lawrence. I'm not going to draft him with the lack of talent I have. I'm going to address some other positions on the field. I'm going to actually get an offensive line to protect somebody. I'm going to get some receivers, and you're still going to be bad in another year or two. You're not getting better anytime soon. So go ahead and get your other pieces, and then go get a quarterback. Or here's an idea: maybe if you actually get an offensive line as a weapon, Sam Darnold can look halfway decent. I mean, I don't think Sam Darnold is terrible. I think he's physically capable of being good. He might be shell shocked at this point, but physically, Sam Darnold has the tools to get the job done. He has no weapons. He has no protection. And he's got Adam Gase as a head coach. The only thing that would be worse for him is if he had Bill O'Brien as his GM.
If he had Bill O'Brien as GM, he would have quit by now. He would just quit. Like, I'm going home. Take my bag and go home.
Yeah,
Y'all call me when y'all want to
if he had Bob for his GM, man, he'd be screwed.
Yeah, if he had B.O.B., man, he might have me and you as his top two receivers, bro. And I'm going to tell you right now, I can't speak for you, but I'm not giving much separation against NFL caliber talent. So, it's going to be a whole bunch of short screen passes, 3, 4, 5 yards, maybe a crossing route if I turn around and get my body in front of them. That's about it, man. That's about it.
Oh, by the way, man, if anybody out there is capable of running between a 4.2 and a 4.5, Kyle Shanahan will be picking up players on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at the parking lot of the Home Depot, right down the street from the stadium.
I appreciate that belief. But yeah, realistically. But yeah, man. I mean, there's some teams out there that are in some bad shape. I think the Jets, I think coaching is a big thing. They don't have a lot of like known guys, but I comb the backup wide receivers every week just to see if there's anybody out there. Should have grabbed y'all's guy, but I wasn't aware of everything that was happening until it was too late. But it is what it is. But I combed and I saw that they have Crowder, who's a good receiver, but he's hurt a lot. They have a dude, Braxton Berrios, that went to Miami in college. He's a great slot receiver. But he only plays if Crowder doesn't play. I think that they're not playing the right groups together, probably. We do that a lot in Philadelphia as well. We don't always put our best 3, 4 receivers out at the same time, so it hurts you. But you got to use your talent because the thing is, you never know what you have. And Travis Fulgham just proved that. You never know what you have on your bench and your practice squad until you put it out there and see what it can do.
Yeah. I mean, case in point. Look, case in point. Last night, Ricky James Jr. for the 49ers, he had to go out and basically be the number 1 point. And he's a guy that's primarily been a kick returner. He hasn't really got a lot of chances at wide receiver. But he went out there and showed out last night. He actually played really well. So, that gives us the knowledge that we have a little bit more depth at wide receiver than what we thought we maybe did. So that's promising. I am going to tell y'all this other dude, Craycraft, assuming that they were pronouncing the name correctly. I don't even know who he is. I'm like, where'd they get this dude? Did they pick this dude up this morning? Like,
they might did. I just want to say,
I know my team like 4 or 5 deep, dude. So I'm like, dog, who is this dude?
I just want to say at the end of the game, I just wanted him to turn and look at the camera and be like, I'm Rick James. That would have made my day.
Ricky James and the James gang.
I just wanted to turn around and be like, I'm Rick James.
I'm Rich James. That's what it would have said. I'm Rich James.
But,
can't imagine why he wouldn't do that, man.
Yeah, it was a hope, man.
Yeah. Can't imagine why he wouldn't do that, man.
All we got is hope, man. All we got is hope.
That's true, man. That's all we got. Well, you got hope. I only have hope at this point.
I don't have much hope.
Yeah. My hope at this point is that we can get a top quarterback in the draft if we decide to go that route. But we'll talk about that another week, man. Jimmy
Oh yeah.
Garoppolo's contract that's going to allow us to basically get out real easy next year if we choose to.
We'll see, man. We'll have a lot of we're starting to see what's happening here. We're getting about halfway through the season, so we'll be talking about what things we think some teams might be doing once we get closer to the off season. But yeah, it'll definitely be some change next year. Would love it if we can get up from under Deshaun Jackson next year and use that money on a different wide receiver. But it is what it is at this point. So you know what the time it is, man. You know what
I
time it
do,
is.
man. It is time to let everybody know that even the sun goes down.
And heroes eventually die.
And horoscopes often lie.
But sometimes why?
Nothing is for show.
None is for certain.
But until they close the curtain,
It's him and I. The
the
play.
play callers. Y'all better know that.
Yep. Yeah.
ATL to North Carolina. Yeah.
Same
Y'all
time,
make
same
yeah.
place.
Make sure y'all
Drop your
tune in
comments.
next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bring a friend.
Real talk.
Appreciate y'all tuning in. Appreciate everybody jumping in the chat tonight. Y'all have a great week,
Absolutely.
man. Holla.